Ventures as our partner to conduct this webinar of how climate adaptive projects can secure sustainable financing. So I'll give this opportunity to George Maina, who is our consultant, to give us a presentation on the above subject. And after that, we'll move on. At the end of the presentation, I'll give you our contacts so that you can contact us on how to apply for our support and our services. Thank you and welcome all of you. George, take over now. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Morning, everyone. You can see it's not yet noon. Glad you are all here with us. My name is George Theuri. I'm an advisor with PFAN. That's a private financial advisory network. So as I begin in my presentation, let me just share my screen. So let me do that in a few. I hope just put it in presentation mode. Thank you. I hope this is visible with everyone. Patrick, confirm you can see. Inga?
Yes, we can see it, George.
Oh, okay. Thanks. So I think Patrick will also give later on give an overview of PFAN from a global perspective, but maybe just to spotlight on the technologies that PFAN supports. And so PFAN works in with a variety of projects and sectors within both mitigation and also adaptation projects. And some of the sectors and technologies that are supported under PFAN are as stated or highlighted in the bullet points. So if you look at agriculture, biodiversity, clean cooking, renewable energy, energy efficiency, energy storage, water treatment, water sanitation, among other kinds of technologies. But these ones, I won't go into much details. They are well covered in the PFAN website, of which we'll be sharing a link for that. Going forward in terms of the criteria, or what criteria does PFAN looks when it's selecting the projects to support. So some of the things we look at, number one is in terms of commercial viability. We also look at the technical viability. We evaluate the experience of the management and team, the climate impact, growth potential, and also the aspects to do with development and gender. We'll also be having a later presentation by the KS, by Kenya Climate Ventures, of which they'll be covering more in details on the ESG criteria, of which we do share some of the underlying aspects in terms of environmental and social and governance aspects in selecting in the projects we do support. So in general, PFAN usually looks to support projects looking for an ask of between 1 to 50 million USD, but of which we also say that we can support even projects looking to ask from 500,000 USD upwards. So in terms of maturity, we can do both greenfield and scale up. So early stage in some rare cases, but also growth and mature businesses. And the project types, I think we covered in the previous slide. So, and of which this one actually I borrowed from the KCV website, of which we do kind of also support similar types of business as indicated. Maybe to go into, because my presentation will be more focused on developing bankable proposals, given that when you're out looking for funding, it's usually quite competitive. So you have to put forward an application which is well structured and which covers the basis that also the entrepreneur, that the funding entities look at. So for me, I like also starting with scenarios because I'm sure most of the attendees, you run various types of businesses. So I've tried to, these are just hypothetical cases of some of the scenarios that businesses usually, under what context they usually look for funding. So, like the first scenario, assume an organic fertilizer. So you've done your piloting, you've done your market testing, you've gotten certification from be it KEFIS or KEBS. You've sold to farmers and farmers have started uptaking. So in short, you have traction. But now to scale up according to your business plan, you are looking to raise 1.5 million to set up the factory, import equipment, invest in marketing and distribution. Scenario 2, I would put it that this is now a briquette. No, the first one was organic fertilizer. The second is a briquette manufacturer shortlisted by KTDA to supply 3 tea factories with around 2,000 tons per month of briquettes. But to do this, there's the lead time in by the time you supply and by the time you are paid. Mostly it's between 60 to 90 days. So you need to finance your inventory in the meantime so that you're able to match this order. So another scenario, you'll be looking at be it a company in the solar space. So you have an innovative solar financing product. You are looking to solarize, be it the industry or commercial sector. And you are putting the equipment at zero capex cost to the client. So you are looking for funding, more kind of long-term funding, so that you are able to mitigate on the risks. And also, given that the nature of your leases are either 5 to 10 years, so also the kind of financing you are looking for has to match with the risk also you are undertaking. So, and then the final scenario, a company, you're looking to win ethanol. So you're in the Kenyan market, you've developed an innovative product using Internet of Things, GSM enabled. And to test your products, you are looking at close to 100,000, maybe you have 50,000. So you're looking, be it for grant financing or what we call catalytic funding for the cost of pilots. So I think those are kind of the common scenarios. Of course, there are there are quite a number of other reasons that businesses usually do look for funding. In the current context, we even had businesses looking for COVID relief, and a number of organizations did offer that in form of catalytic grant funding to enable climate adaptive businesses in either adaptation or mitigation to be able to overcome the COVID. So, but if I can, like the scenarios I've stated, if I can put it into maybe 3 key aspects, that is on cash flow challenges, on capital investments, and lengthy the development cycles. Like the briquette business is looking for, that was on cash flow. For the organic fertilizer, that was on capital investments. And then for the final company, they were looking at an aspect of lengthy development cycles. And at any given time, even as a business usually goes to look for financing, it's usually at a stage in life, like a child. So you start from when you are born, you are at 0. And also when you now mature and you're also working. So businesses usually undergo the various stages. So of which we can call, be it early stage, you have seed, of which you are at concept or ideation, or early stage, of which you started developing, be it your MVP, trying to look for product market fit, or growth, of which you've achieved a product market fit. Now you are looking to scale up and also expand. So one of the things, and also looking at this chart, is that depending with the nature of business. And this one, we are like speaking at it from a financing perspective. So we'll state that various types of financiers look for invests in various businesses depending on also the investment criteria. So there are some financiers who will say for us, we only invest in seed stage companies. For others, they either do early stage or growth. And for others, they just look for mature companies. And the various instruments that these businesses usually invest in, and most of the people running businesses you've experienced, be it grants, equity, convertible debt, or a mix of what we call mezzanine. In terms of, you can have a mix of grant and equity, or you can have equity and debt, depending with the nature of the financing entity. So having looked at that, and also the various forms of capital, I will now speak at it from the point of the PFAN perspective. Like when you approach PFAN, what does PFAN look for in your application? What are how you can call it, the various components, or what you need to do, how you need to structure your proposal so that you stand a higher chance in terms of getting to the next stage. And I think as everyone is aware, is that financing is a competitive field, because at most time you have because right now we can have a stage of there's a lot of capital out there, but they are chasing few bankable proposals, or they are chasing few bankable businesses to implement. And I think one of the things, even from the tech space, you find that around 80% of the financing can go to just 20% of companies. That one is a case scenario you also get to hear all over. So when you come to PFAN, now if I may now get into this side of the proposal, of the presentation, in terms of for us, PFAN, what do we look at, and how do we want you to structure your presentation when applying for PFAN support? The main proposal is usually structured in 7 key components, as you can see, and this is usually a format also that is common with quite a number of financing entities, in terms of because there's some key information they look at to be able to assess your application well. So if you start in terms of number 1, be it the first point, that mostly that one focuses, it's more of an executive summary. So you are looking at your ownership structure, purpose or problem being solved. What is your business about? We need to understand your business well. What problem are you solving? For us to understand, is the business in line also with the kind of sectors and technologies that PFAN is in. Location is also key, because each entity or financing entity usually operates in a given geographical area. The time frame of which, be it you are looking for the funding, is it short term, medium term, long term, to be able to assess in terms of the fit. The resources, and also the resources needed, because you've come with a particular ask. You are saying that it's to set up a factory, it's to expand on a distribution network for a mini grid or something like that. Then the management team, we assess in terms of the experience of the management team, also in terms of the execution capacity. So all that, looking at do they have previous traction, or what's their background. So then finally also on the goal. So that's usually on the first component. In market analysis, we usually dive deep also into the market problem you are trying to solve. You need to also to explain clearly how best you understand your market, do you also understand the competition that you are going into? If it's you are looking at this, just an example. I gave some examples of in the financing scenarios. So there was the first one was a fertilizer company. So if you are going into that space, so how best does your product fit into the existing market? So do you understand the nature of the crops grown, and does your product fit into that? If you're looking like that was the ethanol business, so that's in the clean cooking space. So does your what pain point does your product solve for the customer? If you are looking to displace be it the charcoal business, so do you understand the numbers? And given that there are switching costs involved, how best does your product solve the customer's pain point, in the sense that yes, there's a reduced pollution, but how do you address the point of affordability? So then finally, in terms of the demand of your products, do you understand what is the total addressable market? Because you can have, based on statistics, you can pick maybe an example of Kenya National Bureau Statistics products. But some of the things you may find that you want to set up be it a mini grid, but you need some aspect of density for your product to make economic sense. Given that most of the adaptation and also mitigation projects involve quite some bit of technology. Some of it has been tested, some of it is new. We also like to understand in terms of applicability of that technology. If you're looking at coming with a tested technology like solar, but also another thing, because technology is just one component, but also now the business model. How in terms of the delivery of the various component of the business model, if you evaluate maybe from the aspect of your business model canvas, how do all the elements integrate, and is it like structured well enough that the business is able to scale? So looking at other aspects in terms of the marketing, distribution, sales to customers, the required supply chain, the human resources, and the growth strategy. So apologies if I'm going a bit fast, but we'll have, I'm doing this so that we can have ample time for a Q&A session. So moving from that, we go to the financial overview and investment proposal. So you've most of the time is that given that like for PFAN, most of the projects are either in the growth or maturity stage, or even if it's early stage, the business has to have some level of traction. So the existing structure, the financial structure of the business, given that you are looking for $1 million USD, but what is the skin in the game? If you come looking for debt and you're looking for $1 million USD, but the skin is in the game is 10,000 USD, that obviously denotes a high level of leverage. But then also there are other components, there are other types of investment that can match the kind of the financing structure you are looking for. So the risk also have to match, because given that that was just one case example of the debt. So does the business have assets that can act as security? Are there other forms of instrument that can provide security for an investor, be it the letters of guarantee, letters of comfort? That one mostly applies to, if you look at the PPAs, that's mostly in the power. So these are things that that adds comfort for the financing investor, because one of the things is that the financing investor is coming in to also, although there's an element of risks, but they also look for some aspect of guarantee in a way. And then also if the developer or the business owners, they also need to be well invested in the business for them to show that they really are invested in the business. It's not just a part-time entity for them. It's something they are also committed to. So projection of the cash flows, they need to be well stated and within, and if you are speaking of debt and the time frame is 10 years, so your projections should clearly be within that duration of the repayment of the debt. Or if you are looking at an exit, if you're looking for equity investment, so then you are saying that given that you approach an investor who based on their criteria, they look to exit within the 7 years, and given at a given return, be it of 2 times or 3 times the initial investment. So all these need to be captured for evaluation in terms of does it match the expectations or the overview of the expected kind of financing that you're looking for. Financial indicators are also key in the investment proposal. So mostly you are looking at what is the return on equity, what is the return on investments. You can also look at other indicators or ratios, be it liquidity ratios, leverage ratios. So these ones also helps investors to evaluate does the performance of this business, because usually there are also some industry standards for already established industries. So using these indicators is able to evaluate, does this business also match or outperform other businesses within the industry? When we come to risk assessments and mitigation, for most, let me give an example of large-scale projects. So if you are looking to do large-scale projects, be it, this is just a case example. So you want to put up a power plant. This is just then you are looking for project financing. Yeah? So there are usually guidelines, both locally. We have the NEMA charter that usually guides in terms of the kinds of environmental social impact assessment that should be conducted. But also for if you're looking for kind of international kind of financing, the IFC has guidelines. If you go to the African Development Bank, maybe if that's the point of approach, they also have the guidelines that the issue in terms of the projects must meet for them to be supported. Also for us as BFAN, that's one thing we also look in that the project should not have negative environmental impacts. So because overall we are looking for projects with a positive social environmental impact. So then also in terms of that's on the risk assessment, we also look at the various scenarios. So here you need also to understand what's your base case scenario in terms of that's the normal case, what's the worst, and what's the best. So these ones help in analyzing if the business, be it because of what we call micro or macro conditions in the economy, were to go either way. If we were to have an election this year, what's the impact of your business? If there was a policy change that addresses maybe a key component of your raw materials, what would be the impact for the overall business from an investment perspective? So finally, when we're concluding, we look at the social, environmental, and gender impact. I think I covered in terms of the environmental and social impact, but also a key component is that given that gender nowadays is it's quite key because impact investors usually look that projects should also have a gender component in that one gender should not be I don't want to, I'm looking for the word, one gender as in all gender should be well represented. And also be it now from the internal, you're looking at the composition of your team, but also external. What has the external impact of your project or your business on the various genders? So looking at that, as I wind up, I'll say about the financial model. So this one is usually prepared separate, more like an Excel attachment, of which now this one is more detailed. You are looking to state what's your current financial situation. Most projects, given that if you are a going concern or your business has been existing, one of the things you are usually requested is to provide 3 years statements, audited accounts. I think most of you have been asked to do that. And then now from there, you're also asked to provide projections regarding the kind of financing that you are going to ask for. So in your projections, you are usually base them on assumptions. So the assumption will be number one, growth will grow by X% based on given factors. Is it increase in capacity? Is it increase in the human resource capacity? You also state to the costs may increase based on increase in inflation or something like that. So all this you look at, you evaluate in terms of when you are looking at, as in you put them in your model when also doing, as in submitting your presentation. So the time frame, I think, as I mentioned previously, also in the project proposal, is that they should cover the main planned milestones. Because in your model, you are saying that number one, the first milestone we'll hit these be it what we call the MRR or average revenue or average number of customers. If it's a mini grid, you're looking to hit average number of subscribers to your power. If it's the organic fertilizer, you're looking to disperse X number of tons. So the various milestones. So maybe milestone 2, you are looking to have set up this factory by this time. So if the financing is supposed to cover those given number of milestones, so you need to state them clearly within also the financial model, of which now an evaluator looking at your proposal should be able to understand that within the 5 years, the business will have achieved these, because milestone mostly, I think, will be pegged to also what you're going to invest. If it's capacity, you have reached this capacity by this time, if it's efficiency and all that. Yeah. So, and finally, also the various ratios, they need to be included. So investors also are looking at what is the return that I'm looking for. How leveraged is your business? In terms, if I give you debt, there's something we also call the debt service coverage ratio. So are you able to pay your debt with the level of revenue that you are generating? Then the various components also impact on the various taxes and also any other costs that your businesses will incur. So I think with that, that was the main proposal. So for the other slides, I think I'll just gloss over, because it's more of what as business people you've really covered also in terms of the various funding partner. So various funding partners, they give various types of funding, be it equity, debt, grants. We have nowadays, we have quite a number of private equity and also the venture finance firms. Because of time, I'll just quickly go over these. Then we also have quite a number of asset financing both locally and also international firms. They usually do give that. And then I've listed quite a number. Those are more of the local kind of asset financing companies. Then grants, you can have both repayable and non-repayable grants. So various entities usually give grants. But grants mostly are what, if I can go to a previous slide, they mostly fall under solicited or unsolicited grants. So the entities usually have windows of which they call for applications. But one of the things also with grants that you also need to notice that there's been a shift in the donor sector, in that for sectors which or what you can call market driven, even the grants have changed to mostly what we now refer to as results-based financing, of which payments of the or disbursement of the grants is fully based on some financing indicators, which needs to be verified for disbursement to occur. So crowdfunding also is another one which has been really coming up of late. So it's just an example of equity crowdfunding. I think I saw an aspect case of Future Pump. These are the platform, I think was called Crowdcube. Then we also have debt crowdfunding. So you can have either equity or debt crowdfunding, and so then when we can also go into consumer financing. So this one, it's usually not on your balance sheet. So you have a financing entity disbursing funding to your customer. So it pays you to maybe be it a product for you to supply to customers. Then that was, I think this one I saw some time back in terms of Equity Bank. And with that, I think that was my presentation. Yeah, and maybe if there is any question and answers. Thank you.
Thank you, George. That was a very good presentation. You can never have enough time for your presentation, you know. But coming up next, we're going to have a Mentimeter poll, whereby we'll try and find out what you as the entrepreneur have faced as you go on with your entrepreneurship journey. So there's a link that has been posted on the chat section, Mentimeter poll link. I'm going to be sharing my screen, but first of all, I'm going to copy paste the link again, just in case someone hasn't seen it. I can see there's some people who are already voting. That's great. I'll show you how it looks like. This is the link. I've just shared it again. And if you're struggling, if it's asking you for a code, you'll enter this code. And I'm going to share my screen just for you to get a perspective of how people are voting at the moment. So there it is. The question is, have you ever applied for funding for your climate adaptive project? That's the first question. So we're just going to give a few minutes, not a few minutes actually, just in the next 1 minute, we'll move to the next question. So you just vote yes, no, or the alternative, which is started but gave up midway. Okay, if you're having any issues accessing this link, just let me know in the chat. We'll give it about 30 more seconds. You can see about 11 people have cast their vote. To vote, just go on the link, menti.com, the one I've shared. And then when you click on the link, just vote yes, no, or started but gave up midway. If it's asking you for a code, just enter the code that I've posted, the 404044. I hope that helps. Okay, I'll give it about 10 more seconds. Okay, so I'm now going to move to the next question. This next question is open-ended. So it's about the challenges that you have faced when applying for funding. So you can just express yourself by jotting down what you've experienced when you've been applying for the funding. So you can write a very brief statement on the type of challenge that you faced when you were applying for this. Can see someone has said not applicable. I'll assume they've never applied for the funding, which is okay. There's lack of assistance. Keep them coming. Someone has said that it was difficult for them to produce a well-balanced presentation. Another said they're yet to learn about it. Another said they have not applied yet. Okay, more comments. Someone has said it was very technical and lengthy, the application format. That is understandable, very understandable. I hope everyone is able to participate in this on Mentimeter. It's the next question. After you finish the first one, just click on next. Someone has just written, my organization was new and I didn't have an accounting software yet it was needed. Yeah, that could be a challenge, especially based on George's presentation on the type of financial model they require. Giving it about 30 more seconds for you to articulate your challenges. Technical and lengthy. If you're unable to write on Mentimeter, you can just put it in the chat, that's fine. As we wind up, I've put the timer on when the voting closes. Okay, it seems there is no more voting. Thank you very much. At least we've seen the type of challenges you face when you are applying for your various funding. I think when someone wrote technical and lengthy, it spoke for many who are seeking this funding. So very quickly, we're going to move on to the Kenya Climate Ventures presentation. They're going to tell us about this it's not new, but it's become very salient, the sustainable financing trend and why you should pay attention to it currently. So I will call upon Eric Magu from the Kenya Climate Ventures who will proceed, and then Patrick will take over from there. Thank you.
Okay, morning everyone. My name is Eric Magu. I'll take you through sustainable financing presentation, and please let me know when my screen is up. Yes, so I will take you through this and also just highlight how we have experienced so far with the different investments we have made. So let me start by a brief introduction about KCV. We are an impact investment venture fund that targets 5 thematic sectors that we believe have been greatly affected by climate change. That is agribusiness, water, renewable energy, commercial forestry, and waste management. In terms of what we offer is we give concessional patient capital, and we target mainly early stage and growth stage companies, and depending on the discussion we have with the entrepreneur, we can make a decision on what currency we are going to use. It can either be local currency or hard currency, but for hard currency that will depend with the income or how are the sales being generated. So if it's an export company and they are being paid either through US dollars or euro, then when structuring the investment, we can consider that. Then in terms of the investment horizon, we invest up to a maximum of 7 years. And as part of our strategy, we also offer technical assistance and business development support. And this can be pre or post investment. And for pre-investment, this will mainly be in form of trying to address due diligence findings that we feel they must be addressed before we can commit to an investment. While for post, that is usually through discussion with the entrepreneur, just to identify areas in the business that has not been able to, or there are certain challenges that they are going on or experiencing. And also as part of our offer is we try as much as possible to link our portfolio companies to follow-on investors, considering for us there's a limit of funding that we can provide. So as I mentioned, the funding, we fund early stage financing and growth stage. So for early stage financing, we are looking at companies that are making less than $150,000 US dollars in revenue. And in terms of the ticket size, we are looking for somebody who is seeking funding of between 50,000 US dollars all the way to 200,000 US dollars. And if we were to take an equity stake, we can't do more than 30%. So we'll always take minority positions. For growth stage, the revenue has to be above 150,000 US dollars. And then for the ticket sizes, we are looking between 100,000 US dollars to $1 million US dollars. And then how we pursue the businesses, from experience, what we have seen is early stage, looking at them, most of the investors, they perceive these businesses as high risk. Therefore, we would rather provide more like a drip fed financing to an early stage company. For growth stage, I think looking at the risk exposure, it's quite not as for early stage companies. So I start with how we approach sustainable financing. As many of you may know, sustainable financing is whereby an investor is trying to combine both financial return as well as pursuing social or impact returns. So from what we have seen so far is we try as much as possible to look into the environmental, whereby when you apply for funding from KCV, we will have to review the climate angle of your business. What are the impacts to the environment, that is in terms of pollution? What is the ecosystem? How does it look like? And then for social, we are going also to pursue mainly the labor relations, inequality, human capital opportunities that are being created via our investment. And then for governance here, we are looking at the management structures and as well as the policies the company has in regards to corporate governance. So here is whereby you find like you have a company, maybe you have not formalized your governance structures, that is, if the board of directors is not in place, do you require an advisory board? So those are some of the things that we try as much as possible to tick before we can finally commit to evaluating the application further. So in terms of the significance of impact sustainable finance, we try as much as to be more like long-term. When we invest in a company, we believe that there is an opportunity for growth. And if there is an opportunity for growth, to be able to achieve that growth, we believe by providing capital and technical assistance and BDS support, the overall effect would be economic growth for the country as a whole. And this is something we usually keep track of, simply because even when we sign the investment agreements, we need the entrepreneurs also to commit to achieving certain indicators. That is both for the company, that is, if it's revenue, you tell us projecting in a conservative way, how much will you be able to achieve over the investment horizon. If it's for impact, we also again look at, we could like ask you, in terms of jobs, how many do you intend to create? Of those jobs you have created, are you intending to maybe increase the wages year on year? So that we are able to know that come at the end of the day, overall, that is the economy of the country, will it be benefiting? Because by creating jobs and also increasing wages, that would come with taxes. If your company is remitting taxes, we know that is supporting the growth of the economy. And then the other one is the reduced environmental pressures. This I would categorize it into two. When it comes to climate change or climate adaptive financing, we have companies or sectors that support is either climate mitigation or climate adaptation. So you'll find that for companies that are in renewable energy, those companies are more falling towards climate mitigation. While for those ones that are more in agribusiness, their climate angle would be more likely be found in climate adaptation. So through those, then you your business can be able to identify how it is reducing the environmental pressure due to climate change. And then the other significance we try as pursue is on transparency. We believe with ESG reporting, there's that transparency, and this is actually being able, or we are able to pick this during our investment process. And with this, we will try as much as possible to look into your operations. Do you have policies and manuals? Are you compliant to the regulation? Like here in Kenya, we have National Environmental Management Authority. Are you filing those reports with them? Have you engaged them to come and just check your business whether you are polluting the environment? So at this point, compliance is usually very key. So on moving forward to an example of a number of examples here. I will talk about a number of examples that I believe we are helping the entrepreneurs or the companies deal with the environmental pressure. So if we have made an investment in a company called Sunken, which is based in Turkana County, an area called Kakuma. They manufacture improved fuel-efficient cook stoves. So with this investment, we are looking at targeting a wider range in terms of households. And with this product that this company is manufacturing, it is able to lower the cost of cooking as well as reduce the effects of smoke when someone is cooking. So with that, when it comes to impact, well, what we'll be tracking is the number of sales or number of products that have been sold. If they are hiring new employees, how many new jobs will be created? In terms of average wages, how much will they be earning? And in terms of the product that has been sold, what would be the average number of people in per household? So for us, when it comes to the numbers, it is usually very crucial. And if a company can be able to keep all this data, then it makes the case very attractive in terms of we can be able to constantly monitor the progress of the company from the impact side of reporting. And then the other one is a client like Offgen Limited. For this one here, the company is doing solar CNI to industrial clients. And here we are looking at, this is actually an example of climate mitigation. This is where companies are now switching from the grid, and now they are going to establish their own solar plants, whereby during the day, they can be able to use energy from solar. And if they have good storage systems, then that power can be used during the night, especially if they are doing like 24-hour operations. Now, in this situation, what we'll be tracking for such a company is the number of megawatts that they have installed to the different customers. And then in terms of, again, the number of jobs, and then in terms of governance, the company ought to have good governance. So in a nutshell, as much as we are pursuing financial return, remember in my previous slide, if you noticed, we said concessional patient capital. So for us, we are willing to forego a certain percentage in terms of return, but from the flip side is we are also chasing impact returns. So you'll find like if an investor is targeting the market returns, if it's via debt of around 15% per annum, and then KCV would be slightly below that, let's say at 12%. What we expect from the entrepreneur is to compensate us the loss of the financial returns of the three by ensuring when we come to impact numbers reporting, then they are able to actually prove that they are able to achieve the targets that have been set. The other one is on transparency. I had mentioned this a while back. Then the different levels of sustainable financing. First of all is sustainable impact investment. This is a focus on both profit and ESG factors. And then sometimes you'll find that impact first investing, whereby social and environmental investments take priority over profit. And I would say this is where we would position KCV because we are willing to go after below market financial returns while trying to chase impact numbers as well. And then in terms of sustainable philanthropy, this is where profit is completely disregarded in favor of environmental solutions. And you'll find sometimes this could be offered in terms of grant, and it can be pure grant or refundable grant, simply because the provider is not charging you any interest. So for them is, we give you this money, if you achieve what we have agreed, then that's also a form of sustainable finance. The other one is profit driven. This is more of traditional incentive, is mainly the return. This whereby an investor would come and say, provided I've given you capital, they believe that impact will follow capital. So there will be no so much stress or in them stressing that you have to report on the impact. And then that would, then the other one is on strategies towards investments. Sometimes you'll find that investors can be incentivized is through shares. This is where I think in the previous presentation, George mentioned something to do with private equity, is where an investor comes on board and they get shares into the company. And then with that, something else that can incentivize investors is at least showing that there is potential to make returns. And also, especially for impact investors, community support can also be a motivation for investors to prioritize. And this, there was an example I gave before for companies based where in Turkana County, Kakuba. This company, the key target market is on the community. If they can be able to make improved cook stoves targeting Kakuma region, Lodwar, and parts of South Sudan, and then the investor like KCV is more interested to see the livelihoods of the community in those areas improve, then this would attract an investor to such an opportunity for investment. Then they can also come in form of long-term benefits through collaborations, and this is where you always keep an eye on what the investor is pursuing, or maybe taking a specific direction towards their investment. I think by that, I come to the end of the presentation. And for us, what we are saying as an organization, KCV, we are committed to providing sustainable finance to companies that are falling within the 5 thematic areas. And for us, we are helping with cope with climate change, while at the same time we believe our focus can be able to help companies improve livelihoods, and through this, then we can be able to achieve our main objective of both financial and impact returns. What we do, we make sure when we are doing the due diligence, we are able to pick each of all the ESG factors in the business, and sometimes we have to discuss with the entrepreneur if they have not been documenting, will they be in such a position that post investment will they commit to start reporting on the numbers. So that marks the end of my presentation, and I would hand over back to Inga.
Thank you, Eric. That was a really great presentation. Unfortunately, we really have limited time, and both you and George had to brush through, but we'll be sharing these presentations to all our participants today. And as Patrick comes in to share how you can apply for PFAN services and when you should apply, there's a couple of questions in the Q&A section, and I'd encourage everyone to keep sending in their questions. I can forward to, and then we'll move on with some input from Patrick. So Abdigani has 2 questions. He's asking, how does he know the status of his application? I think that goes to PFAN because he sent this earlier. And also the second question is, can young entrepreneurs meet the investment team one-on-one at office level? For those 2 questions, I think Patrick will come in and answer them directly. And to you, George, Brian Joroge is asking, is PFAN's debt financing for C&I solar projects set at concessionary rate or the market rate? So maybe Patrick, you can go ahead, and then we'll answer the question by Brian, and then move ahead to the other questions that you post. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Inga, for those questions. I need just to clarify a few things, and I thank you, Abdigani, for your questions. If you have applied through PFAN, you must have received an email link where you can monitor your project application. However, on the chat, I have given my email, my personal email address. So you can, in a question that you can raise to me regarding your application, send me the details, the company of the organization. But I also need to clarify something to the people who are listening to us, that PFAN, unlike KCV, we do not provide financing. I need to clear that. What we do is that we provide a one-on-one coaching for you to perfect the business plans in order for you to submit them to the financiers, whether it is in the bank's financiers or even KCV. So that must be clarified. However, our services are free and they are professional. So in any case, if you have any project you would like for us to look at so that we can give you the support, if you log into our website, www.pfan.net, you'll find on there how to start your application. It is very simple. Everything we do it online. However, if you would like to send me an email personally, I'm available. But everything is there in our website, how to apply for our support, one-on-one, and you have to register first your company, your organization, your business. So if you have any question, please just send me the questions and I'll answer them. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, Patrick. We're going to share most of this material with you after the webinar. George, the question that Brian Joroge had asked earlier is PFAN's debt financing for C&I solar projects set at concessionary rate or market rate?
Well, for that one, I think Patrick has addressed that in the sense that PFAN does not offer financing, but what we do is that we help you in structuring your projects, and PFAN works with a number of financiers. So after the structuring process, we try to also to match you to investors who have the same criteria as that you are looking for. So and then projects are usually project specific in the sense that it's not a one size fit all. Various financials have different financing criteria based on the evaluation of the project, the risks, and other factors. I think also as Eric also explained.
Okay, thanks, George, for that. There's another question from Marianne Kamau. She's asking, and I think this goes to both Eric and the rest. Do you support startups distributing solar lanterns in rural communities? Do you support startups distributing solar lanterns in rural communities?
Thank you, Mary Ann. I think for us, in terms of the startup, for us, a company ought to be making revenue. So if your company is making a revenue of between 2 million shillings to 15 million shillings, then that would be categorized under early stage. So what would happen in that situation is we would advise you to visit our application portal on our website, and then you can be able to submit an application. Then from there we can start the evaluation, because I think we fund companies that fall in renewable energy. And if you are providing solar home systems, then I believe you would fall in our renewable energy, and we will be in a position to review our application, and we can start the discussion from there. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. George, do you want to add anything to that, or Patrick?
On that, maybe I can say that we also evaluate based from the broader business model, because the lanterns is just part of one component, that's the technology. So what is the broader business model? And then in my slide, we also stated that there's also an investment ask we usually look for in terms of the kind of financing company, mostly from 500,000 USD upwards. Yeah, maybe Patrick, if you can add something.
I would suggest to the questionnaire that he would, if he would register with our with the organization, with PFAN, and give us a brief of what they want to do, we would be able to engage with them. So please go ahead and do that. Apply in the website. You have a look at it, because we have also got success stories of solar lanterns, even here in Kenya, and even in Africa. So please do the application. Thank you.
Thank you. There's also another question from Clive. He's asking, my company is doing production and commercialization of tree seedlings production while addressing climate change and livelihood improvements. Can we be supported? I think that's what George, Patrick, and Eric have just spoken into. All you need to do is go to both platforms. You can visit the KCV website or the PFAN platform. And once you register, then they'll be able to give you the type of, you'll be able to articulate the type of support you need. And then they'll help you to scale it up depending on whether it is whether it's the business model you need to perfect on, or whether it is your financials that you need to get together for them to be investor ready. And Nesfori is also asking, do you support startup in biogas? That's a 10 household digester. Maybe Eric, you can take this one.
Yeah, for a company that is in biogas and they meet our minimum investment criteria, we support, because now that company would fall under renewable energy, then they qualify. So I would advise, I will post the link to our application portal so that at least you can get to log in, create an account, fill all the required areas, and also attach the crucial documents that you have, and then we will be in a position to review them. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. We have about 5 more minutes of questions. Peter Owen is asking, do you have your offices in different counties in Kenya? So I'll let Patrick say how they can, participants can reach him again, and then also Eric can say how he can be reached.
Yes, thank you so much, Yinka. I've shared my email, patrick.simba@pfund.net. I'm also going to give you my mobile number so that you can call me. But we don't have a physical offices in Kenya, because as I said, we are global. But I know KCV, I am not speaking on their behalf, but I think Eric can confirm that KCV is actually now down in the counties. Isn't it true, Eric?
For KCV, we are based here in Nairobi. Kenya Climate Ventures is located along Gong Road, a building called Jadala Place, 2nd floor. I think for Patrick, the company that has local presence in the counties is called Kenya Climate Innovation Center, which is our sister company majoring in incubation and acceleration services.
Thanks, Eric. And as we wind up, there's one key challenge that everyone kept writing about when we're doing the polling, and that was that this process of applying for funding is too technical. So, George, as the PFN advisor, how much easier do you make this process for everyone, and how can you encourage these entrepreneurs to not fear scaling up just because of the technicality?
Well, what I can say about the process is that the entrepreneurs have been involved in various processes, and also be it for grant application and also for debt. So what we, as PFund, we try to do is that capture the most relevant components of the business. And if you go to our website, we've really broken down the process of applying and even given guidelines. So even if you go to like the first component of the project ownership and all that, there are specific like points helping you, like a scheme telling you that this. So it's well broken down. And at the end of the day, you have to know that this is the business that you run. So for us, as from the other side, we need to understand it in detail. Yeah. So, and then also, you also have to get the point that this kind of financing is a bit different from what you have the banking financing. So banks usually will ask you for your statements, for your title deed and all that. But the kind of support be it KCV or PFund gives, we first want to understand your business, because at the end of the day, there'll also be some other kind of catalytic funding, as also I think Eric mentioned. So it may be lengthy in a way, but we also need to understand your business in detail.
Yes, and just to add to what George has said, George is the advisor, and he will be there to sort of handhold you on a step-by-step basis, such that by the time you're making your presentation to the investor, you'll be actually ready to get the amount of funding that you need for your business to get to the next level. A final question from Maxwell. He says, my group deals with collecting of mangrove seedlings and planting them on the deforested and bare areas, and we are just doing that for conservation. How can we get help from you? As said earlier, and this ties to Clive's question earlier, just access our portals, both on the KCV and PFAN's portal. Once you put in your details there, you're going to be able to access the type of support that you require from both PFAN and KCV. I don't know if Eric wanted to add something. You look like you have something to add.
Yes, I think for us, for those people who are inquiring how they can get help, I've posted the link for application. With that link, immediately you submit an application to us. Anytime your application moves from one stage to another, you always get updates via your email. So it is also very easy for you to track the progress of your application through our review process. So it's quite something that you can be able to keep track. And if you notice your application is not moving, you can always log into your account and write an email directly to us inquiring of the progress. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Patrick?
I think just exactly what Eric has said. Even in our situation in PFAN, we have our application is very simplified. In fact, we have a template so that we don't have to require so many documents. The first thing you do, of course, is to register your organization, your business, and answer a few questions, who you are. Then from there, we will work with you. So we are actually recommending that as many as you please put up your registration, your application, and we will work with you. However, as I said earlier, it will be upon you to tell us exactly what you want. You are the one who owns a business. You know what exactly you want to accomplish. And if you follow the instructions that we provide, we'll be able to work with you. And thank you so much for your support.
Thank you, Patrick. And just to reiterate, the application for PFAN is open all year long, but now its evaluations are done quarterly. So for example, for this quarter, the application deadline is the 31st of October. So if you send in your application by 31st of October, it will be evaluated for this quarter. But that doesn't mean that after the deadline, you're locked out. You're not locked out. It means that you can still apply after October, but it will be evaluated for the next quarter. And also to remind you not to fear to apply. The advisory services you get from PFAN are free, and you'll be able, it's worth a try for you to be able to know where you're going wrong so that you can rectify it and get to the next level as soon as you can. I'll give this, we have about 8 more minutes, so I'll just give 2 minutes to each of the panelists, Eric, Patrick, and George, and then maybe we can bring this to a close. Thank you.
Maybe for us at PFAN, we were grateful to KCB for being our partners and through KCIC. And we are grateful that we have more now people getting involved in the climate change projects. We actually would like to see you more participating with us. So please take advantage of our support. We assure you that we will work with you. Thank you for everybody who participated. And as Inga said, we will share this presentation for you to be able to follow up. Thank you and have a nice day.
I think for me, thank you all for attending. And as Patrick has said, we are looking forward to also receiving your applications to also guide you in the journey of growing your business in this space of climate adaptation, either on mitigation, and also, as Eric put it, in sustainable financing. Thank you.
Okay, mine is to thank all the participants for creating time for this webinar. And I also thank my colleagues from PFAN for planning this. I think they have done so much in terms of planning, and also for the leadership and the opportunity to partner with you guys. So for me, what I would advise the participants is, if you feel you meet the criteria for KCV to consider funding to your businesses, you can submit your application online, and then we will be in a position to evaluate the opportunities. And maybe I can mention right now, looking at our portfolio, I think we have a portfolio of 20 companies. Of those 20, majority are falling in agribusiness, but we are lagging behind in two sectors, namely commercial forestry and water. So if any of your enterprises fall in those two sectors, the two are actually a priority for us. So I encourage those who fall in those two sectors can submit their applications. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Eric. I think that's some good news, especially for Maxwell, who mentioned he's dealing with mangrove seedlings and planting them. So that's great. So I don't see any more questions. Thank you, everyone, for joining this webinar. You've seen the contacts. You can contact both Patrick, George, and Eric directly. And if you have any more topics that you'd like more light shed on, you can just write us, and we could organize another webinar just for you to get more insight on this type of knowledge as you're going on your entrepreneurial journey. So thank you very much. And with that, we can we'll bring this to a close. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye all.